Well, it's about time that I started recording this video instead of thinking about it. I've finally caught up on months of mods, and I've gotten back into the mood for Half-Life Alyx. I honestly wasn't sure if the series would return, and if anything, I was leaning towards deciding that it wouldn't. But here we are, 4 months since my last Alyx video. I'm kind of surprised that no one seemed to notice that the series had been discontinued. If anyone had asked, I probably would have brought it back, but I guess this show's just not in demand. I think I just needed a nice buffer from playing and editing Alyx content for 15 to 20 hours per week. I'll speak a bit more on the general topic of this series at the end of the video and explain how it's going to proceed from here, but we've got 4 months of mods to cover, so let's get this show back on the road. This is a long video, but it also contains some of the best content I've seen in the workshop, so I couldn't justify making it any shorter. If you need a refresher on the format, the category order is skins and items first, which mostly consists of weapon skins, then sick dude maps, which is the best of the best, and then mentions, which are mods that aren't the best of the best, but they do have some really cool features that sometimes even the sick dude mods don't have. So now, without further ado, let's get started by reviewing the best skins I've ever seen in Alyx. Wait, something's missing. The USP Match 45 is an all-round great gun. The metallic sheen is top-notch, the rough textured grip is a really nice finish, and the size of the gun looks devastatingly cool, and the sound is also very satisfying. The attachments are fully customized to the gun, and I have to say that they look fantastic and tasteful, true to the overall style. Though the reflex sight is quite hard to use, but thankfully it's canted, which means that you could still use the iron sights. One small detail that might be a little too small, though it is still really generous, is the last bullet sound. Once the mag is depleted and the last round is chambered, there's a slightly lower pitched chamber sound. The only defect with this skin is that the magazine doesn't go in smoothly most of the time. The USP Match Half-Life 2 pistol is slightly less pleasing than the one just mentioned, but it is still an incredibly well-designed gun. It has a much lower profile, doesn't look quite as sleek, and the sound is a bit less satisfying. But other than that, it's as good or better in every way. The bullet count on the side makes this a good pick for utility, and its magazine is much more reliable. Its attachments are awesome. It also has a really cool reflex sight, but the real underappreciated detail here is the burst fire switch. Most skins stick with the default thumb flick for the burst fire, but this one does a gun spin. The Doom 2016 EMG pistol is slimmer than I would have expected, but it still looks cool, like the real deal. The creator did really great work on the sound, as well as the magazine reloading and the attachments, though really it's only the laser sight that adds anything unique. The Super M5 makes a strong attempt to become one of my favorite weapon skins to date. The appearance is flashy, yet humbly tactical. The texture sheen on the jet black finish makes me drool, and the sound is one of the best and probably my all-time favorite. The gun is from the Ghost and Shell series, but it actually does a great job fitting in with the Half-Life universe, almost like something that a Combine soldier would carry. The only downside with this one is the lack of appropriate attachments. I think it looks hideous with the game's defaults. The Modern Warfare Renetti will not be one of my top picks, but nevertheless I recognize its top shelf design. I much prefer the real-world M9's meaty and metallic character to this one's softer, slimmer, and dull appearance. The sound is decent, but it isn't satisfying. There is a touch of tactical appeal through its real-world militaristic design, but the attachments are what boosts this gun into the top category. Every piece is custom designed, and the most surprising attachment is the bullet reservoir in the form of a shoulder stock. It doesn't make much sense mechanically, but I really hate the default bullet reservoir in Half-Life Alyx, especially when it's tacked on the guns like this. So even something like this is a great alternative. The TF2 pistol is a basic implementation of the scout pistol from Team Fortress 2, and I probably didn't need to explain that. The only standout features are the compact, stocky appearance and the very punchy sound. The attachments maintain a low profile and minimalist design, which, while being nothing special, it is better than slapping on all of the default attachments. I covered the suppressed pistol ages ago, which the silenced pistol looks almost exactly alike, but this one has the sound of an actual silenced pistol. It's nothing special other than its sound and long silencer, as it's just the basic pistol from the campaign, so I can't rate it any higher than really cool. I do find it irritating that the silencer passes through objects without physics, as I sometimes like to open doors and cabinets with the end of my gun. The GoldenEye PP7 is a true-to-form delivery of the main weapon from the Nintendo 64's GoldenEye. It makes no claim to be anything more than what it is, and the best feature is its original sound. The attachments basically cover it up entirely so that it almost looks like a modern weapon, and I don't think that you'd want that if you're running with the skin anyway. The CSGO 5.7 is nothing special, but it is well designed. I've never played CSGO, and unlike what seems like 90% of the internet, I'm not obsessed with this gun. Nevertheless, I am here to say objectively that it is done pretty well. Its basic design is a matte finish appropriate for its composite body, and the sound is about what you'd expect. There was some opportunity to customize the laser attachment, which would have redeemed the gun somewhat, but all of the default attachments make this gun look hideous in my opinion. The Half-Life Glock is a true-to-form version of the pistol from Half-Life 1. Its hideous, pixelated texture and low-poly modeling is exactly what I'd want from this design, and the sound is from the original game as well. I love the transparent magazines that represent the ammo capacity, and the attachments like the TF2 pistol are minimalistic, which is a great choice in my opinion. The Zenith 10mm is from Deus Ex Human Revolution, and wow, I never expected this skin, but I'm really happy it's here. The metal sheen and polymer matte look fantastic together, though I could appreciate just a touch more sheen on the metal. The sound is unfortunately the Half-Life Alyx campaign pistol sound, and that is a major strike against it. If it had a unique sound, even a ripped sound from the host game, this skin would probably be in my top category. The attachments are extremely tasteful, and I really love the reflex sight design. And I'll even admit that the default bullet reservoir doesn't look so bad on it either. The deagle is a little underwhelming, as it doesn't feel quite as beefy and shiny as I'd expect, but it is great overall. The sounds are decent, but maybe not as powerful and reverbed as I'd like. It's got massive recoil, which doesn't affect accuracy, except in the case of burst fire. The second or last shot of the 3-round burst goes way off track. It has some cool custom attachments including a realistic hollow sight, and the bullet reservoir blends in pretty well. The Fallout 4 10mm pistol is a really ugly looking pistol replacement with the default pistol sound from the campaign. The only good marks I can give this mod is its customized attachments. They still don't look great, but at least they're not just tacked on from the default attachments. Except for the bullet reservoir, of course. The AJ-M9 from Far Cry Blood Dragon is a very basic skin. It lacks textures and unique sound, but it still looks cool, and the attachments are nothing special. The Boneworks M1911 is just that, the 1911 from Boneworks. It's about as close as we'll get to a basic 1911 in the game, and the sound is very meaty. The Snark pistol is basically a snark in your hand that shoots bullets. Aside from its snarky appearance, there's not much to comment on here, and the attachments make it look more ridiculous but in a negative way. The AUG is an SMG replacement that's unfortunately only available in the campaign after the Northern Star chapter. It'll be at the beginning of every chapter preceding that. It's a lovely design and has a 3-round burst which does great damage. The magazines even display how many rounds are left through the transparent casing. My only complaint is that the grip is angled awkwardly, so it makes it difficult to hold it at the right angle. Impact grenades are only available in the campaign and essentially replace regular grenades after the super weapon chapter. I think the design is great and I'd love to implement these in my next run on the campaign. Currently they become armed as soon as they're picked up, so be careful not to drop them at your feet. The Tau Cannon is only available in the campaign as a replacement for the SMG. It looks pretty cool, though anyone would admit that the standard design of the Tau Cannon is a bit goofy by itself. The ammo drum comes with 75 rounds, and I think it's very powerful. I'm going to start off the map mods with my favorite of the group. And I admit that it will be a little long because I've got a lot to say about it. Cityscape might be the all-around best-in-class map to ever hit the workshop. I say this with a slight propensity to favor things that remind me of Half-Life 2, which this incredible campaign does. There are multiple scenes that look like they could be ripped directly from Half-Life 2, particularly from the third chapter, Root Canal. It really hits me right in the feels when I see environments like this. Its combat scenarios are also very reminiscent of Half-Life 2, placing Combine soldiers on pedestals and in fixed positions. I found that this creates a rare feeling of volleying fire. It even has an exact puzzle from Half-Life 2, though I think it's not a physics-based puzzle and it seems more like an event trigger. The most impressive formula that it recreates is the ambience. The floating debris, the sirens, the Overwatch voice over the loudspeakers, and the subtle hum of the world resonating. All of these add up to what Half-Life 2 fans would say feels like home. It really feels like an active world, just the way the first few chapters of Half-Life 2 did, like you're moving underneath a living city, in the belly of its inner workings. These steam pipes nearly made me fall to my knees when I saw them. I admit that to be an exaggeration, but it really did reach into my love for Half-Life's environments. It did feel quite a lot like the Half-Life Alyx campaign too, and it used a lot of the same techniques that it did. To me, it's like an offspring of the two games. The creator does mention that it takes place between Half-Life Alyx and Half-Life 2, and it really comes off as an actual short Half-Life 1.5 minus a story. Knowing who the creator is, this comes as no surprise, since they made one of the best Half-Life 2-esque maps ages ago, Across the Coast 1.5. The mod is broken up into two parts, and it took me about an hour to complete. As someone who's played a little of Half-Life Alyx, it was refreshing not to hear Alex or Russell's voice every 30 seconds. So I'd like to personally thank the creator for that. I did find one minor annoying detail when doing a wire puzzle. You should be able to elect to cut the line to an alarm and avoid waking up a bunch of zombies. However, the puzzle doesn't complete unless you connect the wire to the alarm, and that's just being nitpicky. One last note is that I'd recommend using the USP match skin for the extra nostalgia. You can't go wrong by playing this one. It's earned a spot among the best of Half-Life Alyx mods. The Dirge of Alex Jones is one of those mods that you look at in the workshop and you don't want to click on it. The thumbnail and title scream at you to not waste your time. I, Peter, beg you to click on it. It's made by the same creator of Vengeance for Laszlo, so you know it has great scripted events and funky level design. The story makes no sense, and it's plagued with Alex Jones voices and faces, but it's an experience like no other. It does lack polish, but only at the expense of creativity and other functional masterpieces. It really gets good in the second half after the floating islands. A level similar to Blood Dragon pops in with some really fun music, and it's just a good time all around. There's lots of interesting combat scenarios that we've never seen all throughout the level. If you don't have an appreciation for being surprised by what comes next, wacky design, and party music, then you'll probably not enjoy this one. The creator offers to make a part 2, and I'd like to help promote that idea into a reality. The only issue with the mod is that each save point is slightly ahead of the music cues, so if you die and respawn, just backstep a bit to restart the music. Otherwise, you'll be missing out on much of the experience. Superiority Complex Episode 1 is a nice little campaign that features some unique level design that ranges from industrial to natural, and a blend of the two. It has a few puzzles scattered throughout the level, as well as combat that is very well paced for its overall design. There's a cool ending sequence where you'll need to start a teleporter, and each phase comes with a new wave of combat. But the enemies in this sequence seem to be bugged, as many of them never enter the room. It's a well-designed level that does a few things out of the ordinary, and it could be easily appreciated for its pacing and polish alone. Target Shooting Course is a basic Kill House style map that uses really cool moving targets and precarious target placements. It's short, but if it were any longer, it would be too long. There's a timer that displays your performance at the end, but it doesn't stop when you cross the line, so I'd guess that my record is about 33 seconds based on the footage. You're welcome to rub it in my face if you can beat it. Paranormal Witness is a horror experience that places you in the vulnerable position of being alone at home. Through custom voice lines, you learn that there is a killer in your neighborhood and that you could be the next on his list. Each event is very scary, giving you progressive chills. The only problem with mods like this is that each event has to be triggered by moving to a specific spot or by the lapse of time, so it breaks the immersion when I walk all over the house trying to trigger the next event. It's cool and really well made, but if you're looking for a reason to buy new underwear, just play Phasmophobia. Hallway Hoedown offers a quick blast of gameplay on repeat. Before entering the room, you can select your weapon attachments and then get right into the action. It's just a short hallway with a few rooms, about 7 soldiers, and some items to pick up along the way. There's lots of cover, and the whole experience is a well-designed combat scenario, engineered to let you practice short bursts of intense combat. Once you finish the course, you can quickly restart it and play again and again. Hallway Hoedown offers a quick blast of gameplay on repeat. House Call is a lovely experience that takes you through a creepy building, finding keys, unlocking doors, and shooting zombies. The most noteworthy feature is the ambience. Notice the attention to detail in the lighting, and the many sounds such as thunder, creaking, a dull hum, and sounds of critters. Ambience is a consistently neglected feature in many mods that could improve their experience by leagues if implemented. I loved walking through this building, not knowing what was behind each door, and each zombie killing felt special. I think that's what good pacing and ambience does. To me, the combination makes each little moment feel delicate and important. The end of the level ends in a spooky basement, which is aesthetically well designed, and then Jeff will make a brief appearance on your way out. I'd love to see more from this creator, maybe even an extension of this one. Booty's Arcade is an old school arcade instead of a repurposed mineshaft. There are 3 floors of games with about 3 games per floor. There is a progression. You'll get resin for playing games, and you can use the resin to purchase comical items from the concession stand, which grants you levels. The games on the first floor are meme quality, but the second floor and the third floor have more classic games that are actually kind of fun. The highlights are the 2 shooting galleries, one featuring Zen from Half-Life 1, where you shoot all of the aliens, and the second featuring the rooftops of Half-Life 2, and your targets are Combine soldiers and helicopters. There is an ending sequence, and it is also meme quality. If you want to breeze through this as effortlessly as possible, I recommend playing Plinko and just spamming the button. Half-Life Alyx E1M1 Redux is a small puzzle level that uses unique mechanics in its puzzles, such as giant single-use keys, and plugging in an electrical cord for a generator. There's a tiny amount of combat at the end, and it's a well-designed level, but it's not much worth playing for the average user just looking for a good time. Compliance Unconfirmed is a tunnel-style map with an open top to the sky. The layout is in a way that forces you to find a key and circle back to use that key at the beginning of your path. There's lots of combat along the way, but I would describe almost everything about the level as slightly above average. There isn't much noteworthy aside from the story in the form of floating text, but I didn't find much interest in the story anyway. It's a fun and well-rounded map, but suffers from blending in with the rest of the pack, aside from its open-top design. Not having seen much Vinesauce, the Vinesauce Holiday Special is a little too much of an inside joke for me to appreciate the entirety of it, but it's got some really nice features in here. It's a pleasant little cabin surrounded by snow with all sorts of cozy, feel-good vibes. You can bake cookies, build a snowman, get stuck in a gas chamber, and play a snowball fight with a green duck. The snowball fight was hands down one of the most awesome things I've done in Half-Life Alyx, and you can even watch the Star Wars Holiday Special next to a warm, crackling fire. NPC Battle is a cool functional map that lets you pit NPCs against each other. Ever wondered who would win between 9 antlions and 1 combine soldier? Or what it would be like to spawn 100 headcrabs? Well, unless you have a PC 5 years in the future, keep wondering. The average player wouldn't find much value here, but if you've got nothing better to do and are actually curious to see how these units fight, this is the place to visit. Barney Calhoun's shooting range is a simple, realistic shooting range, but with zombies and headcrabs as your targets. Other than its design and layout, it's mostly average. It would be great to have target spawn buttons next to the stalls instead of having to walk over to the hallway, and it would also be cool to have some different distances and static targets. I don't think that these target courses are in demand anyway, especially considering our severely limited arsenal of 3 weapons. Nevertheless, if you're looking for one, then this is a well-made and classic option. Darkness isn't very long or highly polished, but it's a unique experience compared to the usual offering. Your goal is to slink around the interior of a set of broken down buildings filled with explosives, tripwires, and zombies. There's a lot of ducking and physical maneuvering, which is something I enjoy making use of in VR. The GoldenEye 007 series of 4 maps include the train, archives, the depot, and the bunker. All of them include static enemy positions and music from the original game. They're made well and are simple, fun sequences with no real end. I'm not sure that I can attest to their accuracy, but they seemed very similar to the original design for the most part. I found that using the PP7 is paramount in this mod, and between the pew-pew of the silencer and the soundtrack, it really felt like a solid VR recreation of some GoldenEye levels. The only one that I wasn't a fan of was the depot, but all of the others were very enjoyable. There's a hefty amount of looting that's necessary for ammo, which dampened the experience a little, but it didn't slow me down too much. Warren is a puzzle map that features 50 rooms. Each room is distinguished by a numbered doorway, and each room only contains a set amount of doors. So, finding your way through will be confusing. There are 2 death rooms and there is 1 successful end, if you manage to find it. It took me about 15 minutes to complete, and I thought it was pretty rewarding. Bunker Defense Wave Shooter is another wave shooter that gives you a progression of supplies along the way. It's a beautiful setting, though quite small. The waves vary from one to the next, which makes the experience more exciting. But keep in mind that it's still just a wave shooter. It does leave the room after the 15th wave and proceeds to another room with a combine fight. Overall, it's well designed and offers something slightly different from the norm. Gordon's Classroom is a small classroom setting with a hidden light switch that activates some rave lighting and Half-Life remix music. Zombies come out and an infinite supply for you to gun down as long as you have the ammo to do it. There's not much to do here, but it was really fun to boogie down and slay zombies at the same time. And that is all of the mods that I've reviewed from the past 4 months, excluding the Vault Maps horror maps. And let me know if you'd like to see some reviews of those. I might put them in a standalone video, but I consider them to be in a different category from the standard workshop mods. Now, as to what is happening to this series. The mod supply has dried up quite a bit since its initial appearance, leaving less to review. Not only that, but now we've seen a lot of mods in the same class of quality and design, meaning that after playing 50 very similar mods, they stop becoming noteworthy. This could be fixed by having some extra mod tools that unleash a whole new world of capabilities, but for now, the Alyx mod creators are working with what they've got. All of this being taken into consideration, I can't justify weekly mods like I did before. There's always a chance that the series could discontinue indefinitely like it did in the fall, but there's also a good possibility that it could transform into something different. Depending on how well this video does, the series will likely continue on a monthly basis and possibly be triggered by some highlighted mods, which basically means that it's possible for a new video to be published every time a Sick Dude mod hits the workshop. Eagle 1's 5th GoldenEye map will be out soon, and that will probably trigger the next Half-Life Alyx mod video. I do have one special topic Half-Life video coming soon, so it should be a great month for Alyx content on this channel, assuming that I can work up the courage to publish it. I've really enjoyed getting back into Alyx, and hopefully the sparse video schedule will sustain my interest more efficiently than the once per week schedule. You all have been encouraging me to rejuvenate the series, and that has seriously helped. Without all of your requests and comments, it's possible that it would never have returned. I don't like making promises that I can't keep, so for now I'll just say see you later and thanks for watching. Just remember that you can always find the full list of all of my recommended mods in the description of this video.
I'm not a goblin. I'm a gnome, and you've been...